Good afternoon. Welcome to today's program, Search Engine Marketing and Addiction Treatment, Planning for the Rising Costs of Google AdWords. I'm Julie Miller, Editor-in-Chief of Behavioral Healthcare. Today's program is sponsored by Dreamscape Marketing. Thank you to our sponsor, and thank you to everyone in our audience for giving us your time and attention today. Before we get started, we do have a few details to share with you. You will notice that each window on your screen can be moved by clicking and dragging, or it can be enlarged and minimized by clicking on the icons in the top right corner of each window. Please use the Q&A area to the right of the slides to submit a question at any time. You don't have to wait until the end of the presentation to submit your question. But if you can't see this area, just click on the red Q&A button. And to download a copy of today's presentation and other materials related to today's topic, please click on the links in the resources area in the lower left of your screen. And if you have any technical issues during the program, please click the yellow help button and we will definitely help you troubleshoot the issue. Finally, you can also tweet during today's webinar by clicking on the blue Twitter icon at the bottom of your screen. You'll want to click the Post and Authorize buttons to log into your Twitter account and use the event hashtag BHLiveWebinar to begin sharing automatically. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Daniel Gemp. Dan has been the president and CEO of Dreamscape Marketing since its founding in 2005. While at Dreamscape, he has created custom strategies for internet and search marketing, as well as social and mobile advertising campaigns. He maintains a focus on search engine optimization techniques that drive greater return on investment. A graduate of Villanova University School of Business, Dan applies financial modeling and international experience to Dreamscape's campaign on a cost per action model. Thanks so much, Dan, for taking the time to speak with us today. And with that, I will turn the audience over to you.
Thank you so much, Julie. So I guess just to clear the air, I do want everyone to realize that I am both a PPC and SEO addict. This all really came into fruition after a trauma I suffered where I realized a computer could do my job better than I could do it. So as I have struggled to recover from this condition, I made sure that we obtained certifications as a Google partner in both Google Analytics and AdWords, and we're also a Google All-Star. So hopefully I know a thing or two about what we're going to discuss today. I'll share as much with you as I can. Great to see you all. You didn't have to dress this nice for me, but thanks for coming, and I hope wherever you are that you have plenty of snacks and beverages available. So to walk through what we're going to cover today, I wanted to make sure that you all realize how I segment out digital marketing from normal marketing. So should I include digital as a line item in my marketing budget? What is the relative size of the admissions market online? What's the difference between SEO and PPC? We will be covering some tactics, so if anybody thinks that's a little bit 101, we'll take that a bit further. PPC versus SEO, why choose paid versus organic search? Ways to improve your AdWords campaigns, ways to improve an organic search engine optimization campaign, and then how to use content as a cost hedge. And that's really what I want everyone to walk away with today. There's a methodology that I will be outlining that teaches you how to control your cost per admission on the internet, the same way you would manage the risk in a hedge fund, and this is in dollars and cents. So everyone should be able to walk away with that today. Any questions you have, I would hope, relate somehow to the tactics to get there or to that concept. So without further ado, simple question, should I include digital in my marketing budget? And there's an obvious answer, of course, yes. Admittedly, I am a little biased. This is what I live, eat, and breathe. But I don't know that everyone truly realizes the scale of this industry on the internet. It is among the very, very largest, especially in the United States. And Google specifically influences between $5 and $20 billion a year of revenue for the addiction treatment industry. So out of the $35 billion in the space, $5 to $20 billion is influenced by Google. And I use the term influenced intentionally. They don't necessarily control this traffic as leads or as just raw media, but they control that much market share, as 86% of addicts use the internet for their treatment research. What we have seen nationwide, the largest and the smallest of programs, is that the most successful addiction treatment facilities are utilizing the following marketing channels. And this is a full marketing mix, but I want to explain how this applies to digital for each element. Obviously, you have a direct sales force. These are your outreach personnel going out to channel partners, trying to activate referrals from hospitals, other treatment facilities, interventionists, psychiatrists, even labor unions and such. But have you empowered them with trackable digital tools? Imagine a mobile app that had a simple question: have you spoken with any of our outreach counselors? And it had trackable phone numbers, so you know exactly how many people are coming in from each territory or each individual person. You could have dedicated landing pages with a bio of that person, of that partner in your program, for each of their referral partners as they build their network over time. With alumni, consider that this is probably your lowest cost source of new business. You're going to have someone who's completed your program recommending you directly to others, and there is essentially a $0 cost per admission from that source. So how can you strengthen that with Google and with your content marketing tactics? What are you doing for your aftercare communications? Are you publishing your outcomes data? And you're going to see over the next few years it becomes more and more important to share that information, your success rates, your long-term sobriety rates, and you'll also see that as the single largest point of fraud in this marketplace. So that will be difficult to police, but it will be regulated eventually. And you need to realize that you can use it in your favor. If you run a strong program and you have strong outcomes data, pair that up with testimonials and draw a stronger illustration of your clinical quality. So these statistics below are from Google themselves. 49% of alumni have recommended family, friends, and colleagues contact the same facility. What's interesting is that many alumni have gone through 7 programs, 10 programs, 12 programs. They always refer the most recent one. So even after the first round, they go back into treatment, they'll then refer the second facility. So it's important to stay in touch for the long term, but it's even more important to actually run a short-term alumni marketing campaign. Social media reviews are a very interesting topic in this space. 16% of alumni post social media reviews. So it's not a very high participation level. Typically, you don't see that much evangelization. Hey, just got home from Betty Ford, let's tell the world. But what you will see is reviews. Simply, you know, I had a good experience here, I was treated with respect, they alleviated my fears, and I was mostly comfortable. And that's about it. It's kind of standard consumer marketing to alumni. But a lot of programs don't realize that. And then 19% of alumni posted a review on a website. Whether it's your own or a third-party site, that's a combined statistic. So have an opportunity in a moderated environment for alumni to share their stories. Television and print advertising. It is very expensive and very difficult to track, so make sure that you're always using call tracking numbers in your ads. This even applies to print publications like magazines or billboards. But if you put a different phone number on every single ad, and you can use sources like call tracking metrics or CallRail to generate those numbers inexpensively, you'll know exactly what your cost per inquiry is, and you can boil that down into a cost per qualified lead and a cost per admission. You do need to realize that the average consumer in this space is still taking 10 to 14 days to make their decision. So they're looking to qualify their insurance or find out if their state coverage will cover their treatment, or if they have to pay cash. That can be done on an initial phone call, but you still need to be tracking that individual 14 days later, because otherwise you'll incur a cost for the lead and not realize that you did in fact admit that patient. So this kind of brings us to the next point, and this is more of an ethical challenge nationally right now. We've been seeing this at every major conference as a point of contention, but paid leads, buying phone calls, buying non-branded traffic, and simply taking live transfers. The fact is, there is a ton of money being spent on this, so as much as people poo-poo the concept, you are going to see that just like any other consumer healthcare industry, lead generation is a component of digital marketing strategy. What I'd like to point out to everyone is with some of the methods and tactics we go through today, typically you're able to generate those same inquiries yourself. And if you are buying calls and if you are paying for additional sources, realize that there is a markup on that that's at least equivalent with a media management cost. So whether you do these efforts yourself or are just trying to gain knowledge to police an agency or a partner and hold them to your knowledge base, realize that there are some supplemental concepts here. And then internet and digital, again, this statistic is from Google themselves. This is the only industry Google has ever run a private research study on in partnership with Compete.com. So this statistic that 86% of patients use the internet to research or find the addiction treatment facility they choose to go to is accurate according to Google and confirmed by dozens of treatment centers nationwide. In terms of this concept, I'd like to introduce you to called the sales assist through the internet, an indirect digital admission. The internet actually enhances the close rate of all other channels. So your digital marketing is and includes a multiplier that a lot of treatment centers we work with don't account for. It's a medium by which prospects, alumni, and partners can interact with you 24/7. So what if your best admissions rep, your best counselor just worked 24 hours a day, always had a consistent message, always had open arms and a welcoming invitation to come to treatment? That's what your website is. And so if someone has already spoken with a counselor or went through detox and was referred to your inpatient or IOP or PHP program, they're still going to check out your website, and your point of conversion will be your website, in more cases than not. What the site provides you as a resource here is transparent information about your programs. And that word transparent is the most important consideration in all of your digital marketing. Too many programs represent themselves as having, I always joke about unicorn rides on the beach, but that is not a program, that's an amenity. And you guys live in this world that is between hospitality and medicine, and the crossover of the two really needs to be the answer to questions and images, the photography of where will I sleep, what will I eat, and what does the building and neighborhood look like. This accomplishes the alleviation of fear, which is the single largest challenge in a consumer's choice to seek treatment. The biggest fear, of course, being they can no longer do their favorite drug anymore. So, hey, if I can't do that, what amenities are at your facility that will keep me busy during my treatment? Through mobile technology and email, you're going to want to make sure that you're activating alumni, clients, or patients, prospects, and giving them encouragement and support. And this ties back into aftercare. Because it is your lowest cost source of referrals, you should be fueling recovery for the very, very, very long term. Daily tips, constant reminders, leveraging mobile technology and push notifications to keep past patients away from triggers. And what you'll find is the value in that is infinite. You will find exponential growth in your revenue by staying in touch much, much, much more frequently through your digital marketing. And you'll also find that all addicts nationally have a smartphone model iPhone 4S or newer, more than 96%. So there's not really a technological barrier at this point to keeping in touch with all partners, all alumni, all family, but you should be sending them different messages of support that are tailored for them, and it will create this assist factor that closes more new admissions for you. And Google has actually published their own marketing multiplier that typically, for every dollar you spend online, you will gain an additional 25% or higher offline. And again, that's someone doing research, that's a consumer looking for options and choice on the internet. And they will then later meet one of your reps or be referred back to you by name and say, oh yeah, I was on that person's website. I was on that facility's website. So realize that the internet and your website specifically as a conversion tool has this indirect value of an added 25% in dollars that doesn't even convert through your site. And then the fact that you have the ability to capture these no-cost referrals through your site by simply creating some tailored content. So leverage that as strongly as you can. Take it for what it's worth. This is all higher-level strategy, and we'll be getting into tactics shortly here. I'd first like to define the size of the digital marketplace in addiction treatment. It is staggering, as are all of the epidemic levels of addiction. But how many people search for drug addiction treatment on the internet? And a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them. There are 2.1 million searches from the top 3 keyword phrases alone. This is absolutely insane. The only market that is gaining more searches from their top 3 keywords are loans and mortgages, and that's actually declining. So that number is just insane. It is just a lot. So take that for what it's worth, but realize this is online. This is on the internet. So you've got this much traffic and this much market share online. And to define that further, those top 3 keywords, drug rehab, these are also the most expensive. 3 of the 20 most expensive keywords on all of Google AdWords are these 3: drug rehab, addiction treatment program, and drug addiction. The first of which receives about 900,000 searches a year, just shy of 1 million. The second, addiction treatment program, averages 700,000 searches a year in the U.S. And the third is 500,000 searches per year in the U.S. So those 3 keywords alone, the reason so many of you are willing to pay $50 or $70 or $100 per click on those keywords is not because you're insane. I'd like you to all feel validated that this is expensive advertising. But there are 2.1 million prospects that are leveraging that. So if you're going to where your patients are, that is where they're looking for help. How did 2.1 million inquiries translate into addiction treatment prospects? So let's talk about the actual sales process here. An average person performs 1 to 10 search engine queries per day. 2.1 million searches total over the course of a year is about 5,700 queries per day, just for those 3 keywords. 3. Assume that this person used up all 10 searches that day on these 3 keyword phrases. It's about 575 different people, and that's an extremely conservative assumption. No one is searching 10 times in one day for treatment. So even at only 575 people a day, you'd be generating 210,000 individuals looking for addiction treatment from 3 keywords. And there are thousands and thousands of variations. So this is 3 that make up over 200,000 people seeking treatment. This is the tip of the iceberg. So assuming that these queries had at least one of these 3 phrases in it, that's that number. So we're talking about millions of searches. And specifically through Google. I will address Bing and other search engines later, but you'll hear me say Google, Google, Google. It's because they control the most market share. They control most of the searches online. They process 3.5 billion queries per day in the U.S. And on average, 15% are new. So this is your growth potential in a market where only 3 keywords are driving over 200,000 admissions potentially. And 15% is new at any given time, which is very comparable to the growth rate over the last 10 years in opioid abuse. That's your potential for market growth. Do consider that last year, although it was at an all-time high, it was the first year in a decade that prescription opioid abuse did not increase. So some of the market is hitting a peak, and what you're going to find in simple supply and demand is the advertising will actually continue to get more expensive in Google's auction-based system for a stagnant or declining population of prescription opioid abusers. So you will see that trend start to happen in about 6 months to a year as the government becomes more involved in overprescription of narcotic substances. So what is the difference between organic SEO and PPC? And I promise for those of you who do know the answer to this question, we will be diving in deeper shortly. Search engine optimization, or organic search marketing, focuses on making a website's content easy to read by Google, not you. I'm going to say this several more times. Your website is not about you. It is about pleasing the Google gods. Admit that there is a higher power, and it is Google. So keep your focus on consumers with the content itself, but keep your web optimization focused on what makes Google happy, not that incredibly giant video file that you're really happy about from a trip last week. This involves activities that produce content that most closely answer a search engine query. What's been extremely interesting lately on Google is the increase in semantic search, simply question and answer formatting. And this represents more than 25% of all searches now. Instead of saying a keyword-based search like pizza, place, Los Angeles, Google already knows that you're in Los Angeles, and consumers are typing in queries that are more along the lines of best rehab center. What is the best rehab center in Los Angeles? And what Google is doing is saying anyone who puts in just keywords, they're actually saying what question is this person trying to ask and who has the most direct answer to that question. And this goes so far that you should actually be writing your website content in question and answer format. What question might an opioid addict type in to Google, and what answer can you provide them that's the most compelling and geographically specific that would make them consider your treatment? So realize that SEO also seeks to get your website and content listed higher and higher and higher over time in the natural search results, which most of you are probably familiar, but the first few search results on the top and those ads that run along the side are all Google's pay-per-click solution. The organic results start below those on the left-hand side of your screen. So, what is your goal here? What is your duty? And just as it is in your everyday treatment, your duty is to help people. And so why would you focus on you when it's them that has a life or death decision to make? It is them that is seeking medical help and needs immediate attention. So with your site content, focus on your patient. They're looking for information on your programs, not where you went to college. They want to see photography of where they're going to live and what type of people they're going to be going through treatment with, not a bunch of high-fiving clinicians at the annual company barbecue. It does help to leverage that type of imagery for branding and generally on a corporate site, but for marketing purposes, you want to focus on the consumer and realize that you have a duty here to do that. Pay-per-click, in juxtaposition to that, allows you to pay on a per-click basis. Somewhat obvious, I think, but each time a search engine user clicks your ad, you pay money. What a lot of people don't know is that this is an auction-based system, so the price always goes up. And you're going to hear me say that 5 more times, more and more specifically. Ads will be placed in the most highly viewed section of any search result. However, Google gives every single ad through pay-per-click a relevancy quality score. So if your ad says Palm Beach, Florida, and someone is in Los Angeles, whoever is running an ad that says Los Angeles or LA is going to, their paid ad is going to show up above yours because it's more relevant. If that same user lived in Florida, they would see the Palm Beach ad show up as opposed to the Los Angeles ad. It would rank lower. So Google is really focused on making their advertising platform more and more targeted over time. And that includes both the organic search with their question and answer structure and their paid search with relevancy rankings and tying in this quality score, which has to do with location, keywords, is your company name in your ad, or are you running unbranded ads, that type of thing. And an advantage to pay-per-click, it is both immediate. You could turn ads on today, but you can also target certain geographies, times of day, specific keyword queries, and you can set a budget. If you have budget limitations, you can say, once I've spent $100 every day, turn my ads off. Or I'd like my ads to rotate through more slowly because I don't have that many operators in my call center. So pay-per-click is an immediate pay-per-performance option. SEO is a long-term content-driven option, and it allows you to tailor a little bit more or permanent equity value in your website. So how do you choose paid search versus SEO? And when I ask that question, I really mean you only have so many dollars. And if anybody has unlimited dollars, please call me after this. But if you only have so many dollars to spend on digital marketing, how should you allocate them? How much should go towards PPC? How much should go towards SEO? And unfortunately, I'm going to say it depends. Luckily, I'm going to tell you what it depends on. So the advantages to paid search is that you can get immediate results. We could turn ads on today, start getting calls later, but you do need to filter it out over time. And in this industry, because it is so damn expensive, you're going to pay a whole lot of money if you just turn ads on today and haven't thought through a robust strategy. So you need to start thinking about a data-driven approach for PPC. Even though you purely pay for performance, you need to take this all the way through the point of sale and have your sales team and marketing team work to come up with your true cost per admission from paid search. You'll be able to set your time and the amount of money you want to spend. You'll have the ability to buy a higher position. If you're willing to spend a little bit more money for a certain keyword, you can make sure your ad always shows up first or higher than others. And you can compete directly. If you see another competitor going after a certain ad and certain ranking, you can increase their cost by spending on the same ad, and you're going after the same market share. And PPC also allows for different formats and differentiated copy. There are options to simply have a call-only ad, where if a user is on a mobile device, all they can do is call you. They won't be brought through to your website. They won't be brought through to a landing page. It's a one-touch call button. You have ads to change your text and copy. You could run multiple ads for the same target audience and test which ones work. And it's also easy to get accurate statistics on performance in real time. And you can benefit from having a display ad network, which is all of those lovely banner ads you see everywhere. And Google's display ad network is not limited only to their site. You'll see on tens or hundreds of thousands of sites across the internet. Google is actually the company that is serving up the ads on sites like CNN.com and Yahoo.com and Forbes. So consider that in your marketing targeting efforts. If you're going after specific audiences, you can choose for your ads to show up on specific other people's websites. What are the disadvantages to PPC? And I hope everyone pays close attention to this. So the pricing of paid search, of pay-per-click marketing, is based on an auction process. And in an auction process, Google always wins. The price always goes up. Google actually had a representative on a panel at the last Innovations in Recovery conference, and basically the moderator asked a simple question of, what can Google do to help keep these costs from skyrocketing? And their answer was, hey, we're an auction. It is simple supply and demand, and the price is going to continue to go up. So realize that as you set your own bids and you manage your own campaigns, that this is a source of traffic and this is a source of business for you that will continue to get more and more and more expensive and not scale back. You can hedge that a little bit by gaining some efficiency of spend. Stop spending on keywords that aren't generating phone calls, for example. But beyond that, once you've hit your best point of efficiency, it's still going to get more expensive. And I've got specifics on that in a minute. Retargeting. This is something a lot of you may know, and this is something a lot of you may not know. But do not do retargeting in your industry. It is against Google's bylaws, and they will penalize your entire site and all related campaigns. What retargeting is when you go to some consumer website, or you're looking at a car or something like that, and you keep seeing that same company or that same ad pop up everywhere you go on the internet. It's following you. And it uses a cookie technology to track you, follow you, and serve up that same ad over and over, because it's more likely that you will click it and Google makes more money. In this space, the reason it is not only frowned upon but illegal is because you don't want to be at a work presentation pulling up that website that you're about to talk about, and you've been seeking treatment for the last few weeks, and boom, right on CNN.com is a giant ad for a treatment center that you were looking at. So this falls actually in the same category as banned content, adult content. It is a regulated ad vertical on Google. If any of your competitors are doing retargeting and you're aware of it, and you reported it to myself or any Google partner, we would make sure that that was then stopped and immediately policed by Google. So be very, very cautious with that. Realize also that there's a 14-day decision time, 10 to 14 days for most patients in seeking a treatment program. So they're actually going to be looking at several other sites, and you want them to keep coming back to you, but they might end up then clicking your paid ads 2 or 3 times because you're not remarketing to them. You're simply subject to them doing another Google search, even for your own name, clicking on a paid ad. And we've seen a lot of competition lately of facilities bidding on each other's names and again driving up the price per click as a defensive strategy. So be cautious. There are some battles being waged against you that you might not even be aware of, but there is also regulation on the internet. You cannot do retargeting, and you do need to be defensive because one patient is going to be coming back 2 or 3 times. It could be a family member or a loved one doing the research, and they click a paid ad every time, so your true cost triples. What we've also seen is rapid growth in the mobile internet. 50 to 60% of all internet traffic is from mobile devices. This is growing faster in your industry than others because people are looking both for private browsing. If they're in the workplace, they're not going to use their work computers to browse for addiction treatment. They use their smartphones. And the secondary driver is simply everyone has a smartphone now, including bankrupt people, drug addicts, homeless people. Everyone has a smartphone. So realize that your mobile ads and your mobile sites need to be short and sweet. I apologize that I am neither, but you'll see that your ads convert better when you are. So far as disadvantages to PPC, there's no long-term value. So this is the equivalent of renting versus owning. Once you stop a campaign, everything turns off. Competing over a smaller number of clicks, you're looking at about 75% of all clicks coming from organic SEO. So you're competing in an auction environment to spend more and more and more money from a resource that's only driving 25% of the traffic. And from what we have seen nationally, only about 2% of the admissions. So a larger bounce rate comes out of paid search as well. You're going to get a lot more people who see your ad, click on your ad, and oops, that's not what I was looking for, or oops, they're in Palm Beach and I was looking for somebody out in Orange County. So you'll find a much higher bounce rate, which is users who get to one page of your website and immediately leave. What you'll also see contributing to that bounce rate, if you're looking at your own data and you see a very high bounce rate, it's actually due to people that have been to your site before coming back as a return visitor from a paid ad again, and they're only looking for your phone number that second time or that third time. So they get to your homepage, they immediately pick up the phone and call you, and they do not navigate to any other pages on the site before leaving. That is still a bounce. So when you all go back and look at your Google Analytics data, having a high bounce rate, you should only look to see if it's still healthy by having a high return visitor rate. And then the most important thing to consider in everything I'm saying here is this inflationary trend in addiction treatment queries. Paid search is going to continue to get more and more and more expensive, especially for you, and unfortunately for you. So it's becoming less of a viable option for your digital mix. Looking at your advantages to SEO, which is the organic search marketing, it's more cost-effective in the long term, as search engines will rank a website higher over time. The longer your domain has existed, the more content you have, the higher quality links you have pointing to your website from others, general credibility and security of your site. These are things that take a lot of time and a lot of labor to build. But typically in the long term, labor is substantially less expensive than media. So PPC gives you your immediate fix. Hey, I've got phone calls coming in tomorrow. It's just going to get more and more and more expensive. SEO, you might have to wait 3 months, 6 months, a year before you're ranking against these big players that have spent a lot of time and money on their SEO. However, your cost per admission typically goes down. This is also an opportunity for you to automate your marketing. You can build out a portfolio of durable digital assets that hold value. The reason I say durable is if you make a compelling infographic today, or you have incredible video and you're sharing it organically through your site and social channels, you will see that there's some permanent value there. Whereas with paid search, if your ad stops converting, it's worthless, completely worthless. And SEO also allows you to enhance credibility with your partners. The higher you rank, the more patients you treat. Any of these statistics you can share with your partners or alumni or other audiences. It impresses them. It adds to your credibility. It adds to the quality of your care. And it allows you to leverage those statistics in your other marketing. And SEO really incorporates a lot of engineering as well. Your website can be designed specifically for multiple audiences, and you can rank for every single one of them. You can rank for a certain city or a certain substance or a men-only program or women's-only program. If any of you do have those unicorn rides I was talking about, you could rank #1 for unicorn therapy addiction treatment. Again, give me a call if you're interested in that. So realize that your website should be built for alumni and for parents and for addicts, and your perspective of that content is going to change for each. Whereas in paid search, it's more like TV or radio as a media channel where you're saying loudly, hey, everybody, look over here. And if they click your ad, you're basically saying, hey, everybody who looked over here, pick up the phone and call me now. SEO is more of the question and answer format that Google's really hoping you're creating. And it allows you to take a thought leadership position of look over here to get the answers to your questions, to see an overview of our treatment programs, to see pictures of where you're going to be staying. So you're probably hear my favoritism towards the organic approach here. It's simply that concept of renting versus buying a home. One builds long-term permanent value. That's the organic SEO. One gets you what you want right now, even though you can't technically afford it, and that's paid search. And so SEO provides long-term and lasting results. It is not perfect, however. So what are the disadvantages to SEO? It takes longer to see the results. And again, it's very difficult for us to speak with partners and for me to speak at conferences and say, great, everybody needs to invest a ton of time, money, and clinical expertise into creating just truly compelling thought leadership content, the best of the best of the best, and don't expect anything from it, not a single penny for 6 to 12 months. It's the most anticlimactic conversation I could ever have as a consultant. But what ends up happening is an exponential up curve in both traffic and an exponential down curve in cost per admission. So you can actually manage your paid search to be a stronger part of your budget in the beginning and scale it back over time as your organic rankings increase and start to drive those admissions at a lower cost. This is extremely hard to do because you're now balancing admissions data with some financial regressions and trying to reallocate your budgets the same way a hedge fund operates. It's not easy, but you do have all the data you need in Google Analytics and AdWords and any other bidding tools you might be using. Disadvantages, again, for SEO, it requires continuous, consistent work. So Google has had all of these crazy updates to their algorithm over the last year and a half, and there's Panda and Penguin and Mobilegeddon just happened in April. And essentially, they all say that you need to create more content more frequently. I'm going to say more better because it's fun to say. And essentially, take that content and also make it all mobile. It doesn't hurt you if you're not mobile, but it helps you tremendously if you are. And it's difficult to discern direct and indirect admission traffic from organic. You'll see a lot of repeat traffic where somebody just types your domain name in directly on a second or third visit. And you'll also see that it requires substantially more skilled employees, back-end coding, strategic linking from other sites, tagging your site for certain keywords, and then optimizing it for load speed and making sure all of these magical search engine bots are kept happy. So in the choice, again, back to the concept here of PPC or SEO, why choose between them? It's to achieve a harmony in your budget, to achieve that optimal cost per admission without just spending more and more and more money. You can jumpstart an SEO campaign with PPC to get higher quality relevant traffic faster. You can also pull back on PPC long term and keep SEO constant. You do not always have to spend the same amount of money the same way every month. As your facility ranks higher organically for more valuable keywords, you can decrease the paid search spend potentially. You might want to keep both moving, but you can also use it to counter the effects of seasonality. There's a huge influx with the New Year's resolution crowd, and there's a very slump in the middle of summer, and then you get the holiday traffic after the 4th of July and Halloween and whatnot. So your paid search spend is a great tool for scaling up and back. The other thing that always happens is success. When beds are full, when you're helping the most people, where can you decrease cost? You can decide to produce slightly less content, which could decrease costs, or you could substantially reduce your paid search, but realize that you still have long-term value to participating in SEO and creating thought leadership content. To continue that line of thinking, again, pull back on PPC long-term, but keep SEO constant for the long term. And what you'll see is that as your facility ranks higher organically for these valuable keywords, it's going to counter the effects completely. What is happening in your industry is this concept of Google inflation. This is now the second time I've mentioned it. Your cost per click is increasing 10 to 20% per year. So that means in 5 years, every admission you're getting through paid search right now is going to cost you twice as much money for the same revenue, as much as twice as much money. So if your budget stays the same every year and you're not increasing your spend by 10 or 20%, you will become a victim of Google inflation, where you're spending the same money, but you're getting less traffic, and, oh no, my competitors are gaining on me. But if you look at this chart here, the red line is paid search, the blue line is organic SEO, and you'll see that over time, typically you'll see SEO take more of an exponential up curve over time as opposed to being a straight line. But as the SEO increases, your paid search can decrease and you keep that harmony. You're also hedging this wildly increasing cost from Google paid ads. Again, because it's an auction-based system. So here are the tactics. Here's where we start to get into more of a deep dive. There's only a few more minutes here, so if anybody can stay on the line the last few minutes, I'll get you to what you're looking for. So the ways to improve your AdWords campaign. Choosing keywords based on substances, locations, really getting into the specifics is going to give you lower cost bids. So instead of just saying drug rehab, you could search for Phoenix Drug Rehab Men's Program. And a lot of people search for it, and a lot of people click it, but it's a much lower cost per click than a general term like drug rehab. You're going to want to spend on your own name defensively if competitors are spending on your name. Now, this will drive the cost per click up over time, but it keeps them from gaining market share that is specifically looking for you by name. So it will be, again, a hedge maneuver, a defensive maneuver. Write targeted ad copy and geography-based ads. Always have a town name, a city name, an insurance carrier name in your ads, and make sure that they're landing on relevant pages. So don't just send everyone to your homepage. Generate separate landing pages for each insurance carrier, for each city that you operate in, or region that you'd like to operate in. You do not have to be located there to run ads there. And you'll see that there are pockets of wealth and higher paying insurance carriers throughout the country, lots in the Northeast. You pick up some Texas and California. So everyone is going after the same traffic on a national level. Additional ways to improve your AdWords campaigns. Use filters, and I cannot tell you how many of you I have seen failing to do this. It bothers me because we all have the potential to spend less money and help more people. So day parting. These same ads cost different prices in the morning as they do in the evening, and you don't have to have expensive bid software to do that. You can set your ads to run at different times a day when they're less expensive for the exact same keyword. Geographic targeting. You can say, I only want my ads to show up for users who live within 30 miles of this exact location. You can actually draw a circle in Google AdWords. It's that simple. Or type in a zip code. Device targeting. You can have your ads only show up on specific devices, like tablets, if you find that they convert more than smartphones do. And there are exclusion lists in AdWords. They're very easy to use, but we've worked with some large national players that are not even using the word free as a negative. If you take cash or out-of-network insurance, you don't want traffic coming through your paid ads that is typing in free drug rehab program. So you add negatives like the word free, or if there's a similarly named facility, you can make sure that you don't, either that you do or that you don't show up for their name. And similar strategy in that direction. And another important thing to consider, the more money you spend on Google, the more frequently their reps will call you and befriend you, and they are your Google rep. They are salespeople, and this is running rampant in your industry. Hey, why don't you spend more money on these other 20 keywords? Don't they look promising? Well, there might be a good reason not to. They might not convert well. They might get traffic to your site but not generate phone calls. They might be more frequently associated with the keyword free. So it really does depend on what you're trying to accomplish, but be cautious to always have an expert on your side, and don't just inherently trust the auction house to set the price of what you're buying. And further, you can take demographic targeting from data provided in your Google Analytics tools, Google Webmaster Tools. You should be able to tell the gender, the age, the location where they live, and the hobbies and interests of everyone that comes to your site. So if 50% of your site traffic loves videos and movies, make sure you have video testimonials to improve your conversion on that traffic, just as an example. Getting closer to the end here, just a couple more minutes. Ways to improve your SEO campaign. As the slide loads a little slowly. Build your lead generation focused website. And again, you can have several sites. You might want to have a corporate website and also have a primary treatment program site. Similar domain names, but it could be JoeSchmoRehab.com, which is your corporate site, and JoeSchmoTreatmentCenter.com, which is your marketing site. Make sure that site really focuses on call to action. This is a very typical consumer market. These are people suffering from a disease that are looking for treatment options, and they're going to make a choice between only 2 or 3. There's not a great amount of research being done here. So if you can identify if someone is shopping for themselves, a loved one, simply more information like a brochure, or if they're ready to verify their insurance info, create different pages, different buttons, and different call to actions for each of those audiences. And that's why you'll see so many slideshows, so many contact forms on the websites of treatment programs where you might consider them very successful. Focus on creating both volumes of content and a variety of content based on keywords. So always talk about those geographic areas you're trying to pull business from. Always talk about the substances that you treat the most. Nationally, here's a hint, opiates, heroin, prescription medications, and alcohol. That's where you're going to find the most success. Even if you're not a detox center, consider creating content about detox to capture that traffic and begin a referral relationship with the detox partner. Those patients will typically come back to you. So then realize that there's options for other search engines. The rules and things that Bing likes do not always agree with Google. They're typically 6 months behind any change Google makes. One of the things that Bing still likes very much is seeing a privacy policy link in the footer of your website. Google doesn't really care as much anymore. But Google likes to see HTTPS. They want what's called an SSL license activated on your site so that all of the contact forms and submissions are secure and encrypted. And that should matter a bit for HIPAA compliance for those of you who might integrate a sales CRM directly to your contact forms. So, a few tactics there, and we're almost at the end. So generally, the ways to improve SEO campaigns, just create really, really good content and as much of it as you can. Unfortunately, it requires a variety of skill sets. You will need designers, developers, writers, and clinical experts in combination to do any of this. But blogging, even though most people don't read blogs, the national average in your industry is 13 seconds. They're a great entry point to a website, and a user typically clicks back to the home page right away. Targeted landing pages where, again, it's built for a specific substance or audience or program you have. Videos. All testimonials should be video. Nobody believes written testimonials anymore. Think about your own perspective. Do you believe something that says, Joe S. from Idaho accredits this facility with saving his life? You want to see a video. So infographics are extremely shareable. Many of you saw the Faces of Addiction infographic that went around nationally. It went viral. It was picked up by mainstream news resources. It was a program's marketing effort. So one asset, like one infographic, could be shared in thousands of places. Ad images, slide shares, social media, white papers. I'm just listing them now, but realize that there's so much content you can create that I'm going to ballpark about 90% of you are not creating at all. At the very least, if I had to choose one of these places for you to begin, it would be blogging. You can write simple, clinical-focused blogs that incorporate all of the keywords you'd like to rank for in terms of substances, geographic areas, and clinical content. You can create link-building partners, build out a plan where you're guest posting content on another healthcare blog, or vice versa. You're offering that in exchange for someone else promoting your press release or case studies. So build these partnerships. This is a very friendly industry, tons and tons of referrals back and forth because we're working to save lives, and leverage social media to build out your credibility and reputation on all of this. So stay current. Make sure that you're up to date with Google. Make sure that their algorithm updates, they will tell you that they're coming. You don't need to fear a Mobilegeddon level event. You just need to prepare for it. It's not that hard. And you have to realize that your organic strategy is durable, and even if you have to make a few changes, is still going to give you that value and equity as you transition. So what's the bottom line? How can I conclude here and let you all get back to your days if you haven't been snacking this whole time? The bottom line is you're in a shark tank. You are in a high-risk, high-cost, if not the highest risk and the highest cost industry on the internet. And it's difficult that is because you're trying to use multiple marketing channels, you're trying to support a strong internet presence, and your competitors are ferociously coming at you. But realize that with a successful long-term SEO campaign supported by a strong pay-per-click campaign, you're going to be able to mitigate the rising costs of Google AdWords, that 10 to 20% increase a year compared to everybody else's increase of only about 5 to 10. You're going to be able to decrease your cost per admission over time. And again, if anyone wants to follow up on that, we can speak further. But keep looking at your cost per admission because you'll be able to hedge against rising costs that your competitors will have to incur, and ensure a long-lasting stream of new customers is going to find you in any market environment. So the internet should be a significant part of your overall marketing budget. It is an investment, not a cost. Everybody asks me what our services cost. They don't cost anything. It's an investment, and it depends on how much of a return you can generate. It is extremely difficult to stay up to date internally, so always look to have somebody on your side of the table that is in a position where they're constantly required to stay up to date. Excuse me. And investments require risk mitigation. So make sure that you're looking at the data, especially if you're in management, C-level executives. You need to be managing your marketing spend on the internet like a hedge fund, or you're probably incurring tremendous waste, tremendous waste. Your key risk to consider is that novices will absolutely be taken advantage of by competitors. You are in Shark Tank when you're on Google in this space. There are guys out there like Mr. Wonderful, and if you have an entry-level employee managing your digital presence, they don't stand a chance. So again, get the right experts in your corner. And I'd love to get some questions and see what everybody's thinking. I might have talked a few minutes too long here, but let's address it.
All right, Dan, thanks so much. That was a great presentation, a lot of good information. We have had a number of questions come in from the audience, but we'd like to remind you that you can use the Q&A widget to submit a question. So someone in our audience is asking, are there digital marketing implications for a local outpatient treatment center that doesn't have residential, that doesn't have sober living, and that doesn't target the outside of the market patients, people who would need to fly in to get to your treatment center? Are there digital marketing implications for a center like that?
Absolutely. So the digital marketing implications, if you're a local or regional operation of any model, and I mean any state, any model, this is a national trend, go after local geographic keywords, town names, city names, and your state more than anything else in this content you're generating. So blog about it, write about it, but more specifically, stop creating content for the general consumer, for the general patient, and start creating content regionally for your referral partners. Build that mobile app and get it in the hands of your referral partners around town, right? It's going to be a lower cost per admission. And start building out an alumni program, especially if you're generating smaller revenues than your fly-in inpatient programs. You're going to actually find out that you have a huge alumni network around town. So realize that you don't have to create content just for the end consumer, and go local in everything you do down to the town name.
Okay, great. That's good advice. And we had quite a few questions come in about regulated retargeting. So our audience would like to know, first of all, what government agency regulates the retargeting, where that could be found in the Google bylaws, and whether or not that retargeting also applies to mental health treatment centers.
Sure, and we'll actually post a link to this. It is not legal regulation, it is Google. And Google flat out does not allow it, and there is actually penalty to it. You will be banned or your ads will be turned off, and you can be reported for it and should be. It is actually categorized. We're sending a link to the actual policy right now on Google's support forum. But basically, if you know someone who is doing that or you yourself are doing that, you should stop, and you should report to Google who else is participating in that. And they will stop that. It's unfortunate that that's not an option that's available to you. But again, the reason is they don't want people that are in their workplace constantly having addiction treatment ads pop up. It's based on health conditions. Anything that's based on health conditions, pharmaceuticals, is kept confidential in Google's eyes. So you don't need to worry about the police. You need to worry about Google.
Okay, good. And then does that retargeting also apply to mental health treatment centers that don't have addiction services?
Yes, not as much. I would say follow up with me offline about that.
Okay, great. Let's see what else we have here. What would be an example of a piece of content marketing targeted at a potential referral partner? Can you address that quickly?
Sure. So you could create an infographic about some of your outcomes data or low AMA rates, low walkout rates, a growing team. Maybe you've increased the number of patients you've treated by 20% and decreased the AMA rates. You could make an infographic about that, even as a print tool, put a tracking phone number on there, and have your outreach personnel distribute that to your referral partners. And it adds to your credibility, and it adds some specific content that they can share with future prospects and say, look, I'm not saying this is the place you have to go, but I do see them growing and doing good things over there, so you should consider this specific program.
Well, that's a great tip. And that is all the time we have for questions today. And I do want to thank Daniel Gemp once again for an excellent presentation. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Dreamscape Marketing, for making today's program possible. And finally,
Julie,
thank you to everyone in our audience.
Sorry, if people cooperate a little bit more with their referral partners, they will be able to drive down regional costs on their ad bids. And someone did ask that question, so I just wanted to throw that one in there for everyone's consideration.
Okay, great. Thanks for the follow-up. And of course, we would like to thank everyone in our audience for participating today, and we do hope you'll join us again in the future for another behavioral healthcare webinar. Thanks so much. This concludes today's presentation.
Thank you.